Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community, and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, as we wind up December, as we're moving into Christmas week, we've spent a lot of time this year talking with contract vendors, all about home maintenance and planning. And we're going to be doing that today, and we're going to be doing that next week. Next week, we're going to be joined by Chris Rule from Premier Power Generation. He is the Kohler titanium dealer, probably one of the most popular guys in town right now after the power outage.
I'm sure he is.
And for people who want to put a gift certificate under their tree with a generator, he's going to come in and talk all about the planning, what a whole house generator looks like, and the operation. He's an interesting guy, and he'll be very informative. Today we're going to be focusing on more exterior maintenance. We had Gray Fox Outdoor on a couple of weeks ago, and they talked all about their the hardscape that they do, the furnishings, taking advantage of the temperate climate, and how smart it was to plan this time of the year for things they want to do in March or April. My guest today is Travis Forrest. He is the owner of all Seasons Lawncare and Excavating. And probably, Travis, I want to, first I'll say good morning.
Good morning.
I bet that when pollen starts to fall or spring starts to come around, your phone will start ringing off the hook because people think they can start immediately doing all the things that require planning on like 3 days' notice.
That tends to happen.
Right?
Yes.
Where your phone will ring. Instead of, this is a great time of the year to, like you and I got together a couple of days ago, and we went over some things that I know will affect my property, but we've got to work 3-4 months in advance, don't we?
Correct, yes. Yeah, it always helps to plan ahead and get on a schedule because it usually people call and they want it done yesterday.
Exactly.
So it's always better if we can get a game plan together and at least get you on the schedule and be there at prompt time.
Well, I had the occasion to meet with you a couple of weeks ago at a client's home, which we're going to talk about later in the show. But your lawn care and excavating, there are so many companies in Moore County. You see trucks everywhere with the words lawn or landscaping, and we always joke and we always say to people, especially to clients that we're working with who are coming into town, there are more landscapers and more hairdressers in Moore County than you could shake a stick at.
I would say I would agree with that.
So you are a complete soup to nuts service, which I did not know, and I was impressed. But can you tell us about your company, all the things you cover?
Well, we've been in business for 18 years, so we basically cover everything from spring cleanup to a fall cleanup. So trees, excavating, drainage, hardscapes, the mulching. We also do trees, taking trees down, removing large pines, and land clearing as well. So pretty broad span of what a customer would need. We could fill the needs of helping them out.
Yeah, I didn't hear you say that you do weekly lawn maintenance.
We do and we don't. I kind of try to stay away from that as much as I can,
right?
Just for the simple fact of manpower, employees, and that kind of starts a whole nother fire of the weekly maintenance here to what I'm used to back home in Indiana.
So tell me about Indiana and tell me about how you got to Moore County. Your family is here.
Yeah, my sister and brother-in-law and their 3 kids have lived here right around 10 years. So we would come and visit and take a vacation and this and that, and love the sunshine.
Yeah.
You know, we get down here and the people and the military town and that kind of stuff. So we kind of made the choice of moving, and I'm glad we did. We don't have any regrets doing it.
How long have you been here?
Been here close to 2 years.
Okay. So when I think of Indiana, I think of Gene Hackman and Barbara Hershey in the movie Hoosiers.
Right.
And it was beautiful. They romanticized the plains. It didn't look like a place I would want to spend a winter.
Yes. Yeah, the winters are rough. Cold, snow, more cold, and but it's 2 or 3 months out of the year. Then summer's pretty nice, so it's a beautiful state. Just the Carolinas kind of fit us.
Yeah. So 2 years you've been here.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been here 23. I've been in the real estate business that long, and I've always said it takes 2 years in Moore County to, if you're starting a business or if it's a new business you're bringing here, within 2 years, if you play your cards right and do the right things, you can become very quickly viable. You've got a nice website. You've got things on there that I just don't think you can't tell by your truck all the things that you do. You've got a beautiful truck.
Right.
There's, bush hogging, forestry mulching, deer plot installment, stone, gravel, driveways, tree removal. I hope moles, because that's what one of the things you and I were talking about the other day.
There's all kinds of different stories how to cure those.
Drainage control is huge.
Mm-hmm.
We have lots of clients who, when they buy a home, one of the things that always seems to come up, if there are issues with water, drainage issues, the building of berms, coming in behind us and creating a situation where the water will fall off the house and away from the home. You do all of that.
Yeah, it's just when it rains here, it's a torrential downpour for 10 to 20 minutes, and you can accumulate 1 to 2 inches or 3 inches of rain in that amount of time. Yeah. And if you don't have the proper drainage for that, then if it's too small of a catch basin, too small of drainage, then it can't consume that amount of water in that amount of time, and that's when you start having problems.
Well, I see how you have set up your shop, and you are in it to win, so to speak. I mean, you're here to make a commitment. How old is you have children?
I do.
What ages?
I have a 3-year-old boy, Nash, and 2 stepdaughters, Lana, she's 14, and Madison, she's 18.
Okay.
So
you have come midstream. You've switched, not careers, but you've switched venues.
Right.
And you're making a commitment to rip it up back there and make it work here.
That's been in my blood since I was young.
Is that right?
Followed my footsteps of my father and my grandfather. It's just you're either in it to win it and do it right or don't do it at all. That's kind of how I was raised. I was born and raised on a farm, so we were always on the go.
The minute I met you, I liked your diction. I liked how quick you were. I liked the fact that you showed up early. For a client, on behalf of a client of mine, you had an estimate that night.
Correct.
It was a pretty extent, and we're going to go through that in the second set. The same day.
Mm-hmm.
That's unheard of.
Yeah.
Here. It's unheard of.
Yes, for here it is, and that's an adjustment I'm trying to adjust to.
Right.
And I'm not sure if I will be able to adjust to that, because back home it's go, go, go. And here it's kind of a slower motion, which I kind of like, but it's going to take some time for me to adjust to that. And that's just customer service. I mean, if, back home, if I wasn't getting an estimate to them in a timely manner, then if somebody else was, and they took them serious.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest key to running my business is prompt, timing, and communication.
Yeah. Your business is not just residential; it's also commercial.
Correct. Yeah.
And tell me about, give me a Cliff Notes version or a synopsis of your first 2 years in business, because you've probably already built up a bevy of clients and some success stories that you may want to share.
First 2 years here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, or maybe I haven't said it yet, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I ended my career with law enforcement back home and finished up with that, and we moved down here, and my wife, she's a nurse at First Health.
Okay.
In the mother-baby department. So I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do when I got down here, and I kind of seen the opportunity and go to cookouts, family gatherings and this and that, and people were like, "You used to do what?" And I kind of talked to them a little bit, and they're like, "Well, can you come take a look?" And I'm like, I'm not sure if that's what I want to do. So I leaped in and made it happen. I went and bought new equipment and trucks and this and that. Then, and I say it to this day, I'm fortunate to kind of pick and choose the jobs that I do.
Right.
It's not that I don't turn anybody down. It's just I've reached that capability as being in business. It makes it nice.
Do you, right now, is your focus, or have you been doing more residential or more commercial?
I would say it's 50-50. I have a hard time turning people down, even though if it is a small job.
Right.
Because of years in business, that small job has turned into a big job. So I try to treat each customer, as I would if it was a big job, even though if it's a small job. So you just never know where it's going to lead to, and treat people with respect and take care of them.
So you were in Indiana. You were in law enforcement.
Correct.
Not in landscaping in any shape or form?
Yes. Yep.
On the side?
Yep. When I first started my business, I had a good friend of mine, Corey Hall. He went to paramedic school, actually, to fly a helicopter, medic.
Okay.
And I would help him on the weekends, and he just mowed like 12 yards. So I'd help him during the week and this and that. Then when he went to medic school, he's like, "You want to take over these yards?" And I'm like, kind of, sure. So one thing kind of led to another, and I had 12 yards, and then it turned into 20. And I was like, holy cow, what am I going to do here, And I always tell this story, I was working, didn't have much money, and I had a riding mower that I bought, but I couldn't afford a blower. So it was a broom. So I used a broom to sweep off the driveways and the sidewalks and this and that, then save some money up, got a blower and this and that. The next thing you knew, I had 15 backpack blowers and 6 mowers and a crew of 15 employees, and it kind of just took off, and wasn't really expecting to do that, but it did, and I'm glad it did.
That was here or in Indiana?
That was in Indiana.
What about here? What kind of crew do you have now?
I got a smaller crew. So it was an adjustment because I didn't want to, hire a bunch of guys not having work, because,
right.
My employees to me are like family. They have a family to feed, they have mouths to feed, they have bills to pay. So I got to make sure I have work for them to do so they can take care of their families and do what they need to do for their own self.
Yeah. Rich, come on in. Rich, thank you. Please sit and join us. Okay. So when I met with you at my house, and when I got to see you at Rich's, which we're going to talk about in the second set, if I had to describe you to somebody, I would say, in a word, meticulous.
Yes.
Your truck is cleaner than my car.
Right.
Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, you showed up on time. We talked about 5 or 6 different things, and you kept going back to soil tests. Mm-hmm. I had a couple of issues on the lawn, and we talked about sod, we talked about moles, and you said, before I do anything, I've got to pull a soil test. Mm-hmm. Tell me about a soil test. What do you get? What are you trying to look for before you do any work?
Well, from back home to the Carolinas, it's totally different soil.
Okay.
Total different grass. You got centipede, Bermuda, zoysia here. Back home, it's basically Kentucky bluegrass,
Right.
And some fescue. So with the soil here, it's sand. So everything grows a little bit different in sand than what it does in clay or nice topsoil. So I always think it's fair for customers, instead of telling them, hey, this is what you need, and then doing it and them not getting the results that they're expecting. I don't foresee that being fair. So I always like doing a soil test, and that tells you how much lime, calcium, and that kind of stuff is in the soil to make sure you get the results that you're expecting.
Where do you send the soil tests when you pull them?
I send them to Site One.
Okay.
Or there's a couple other places, Carthage Feed Store in Carthage.
Okay.
They also do that too, and it just turns out to get the best results by starting at phase 1 and working through it.
We talk to clients all the time who are selling their home that curb appeal is very important. It's a first impression that a buyer will draw when they pull up to a property. And people around here take pride in their homes, and one of the things that has to be done, it's not just the interior design and paint colors, it's the curbing, it's the landscaping, the manicuring, it's the whole package, and that's where you come in.
Right.
We're going to come back in the second set. We're speaking with Travis Forrest, and he owns All Seasons Lawncare and Excavation. And we're going to be introducing a friend of mine, Rich Meinecke. We'll be right back. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. We're speaking with Travis Forrest. He is the owner of All Seasons Lawncare and Excavating. And joining us, who came in at the end of the first set, which was my fault, Rich Meinecke. Rich is a homeowner in Warrior Woods, and we had a chance to meet a couple of months ago about getting your home in condition to put on the market to sell. We've had great conversations about all the different steps. And one of the things we most needed to do, I think the day we first met, Rich, I think I had said to you, we've got to clear up the property and create a blank canvas. I think those were the words that I used. And it sort of has just, you've enjoyed the rustic and the wilderness, but it's got a little bit out of control, just a little out of hand. I'm being nice.
You want me to respond?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I couldn't have agreed with you more when you pointed it out.
Right.
Part of my commitment when we built that house was that I would keep up the property and I would install landscaping.
Right.
And because of a series of business referrals and serious health problems,
Yes.
a series of surgeries, including heart surgeries,
Yep.
I wasn't able to keep my commitment. It's co-owned with myself and my son, as you know.
Yes.
So I felt like I was letting him down.
Yeah.
And your depiction was the kindest version I've heard. Mine was much more judgmental than yours. So you gave me a lot of relief.
Well, we had a really productive meeting with Travis a couple of weeks ago at the house, and I was so impressed with the way he handled himself and how he surveyed the entire property. He listened and looked more than he spoke initially. How did you all hook up? How did you meet?
Interesting. I walk my dog, even on a rainy day like this, in between showers, at least once a day, and sometimes 3 or 4 times a day.
Right.
For health reasons, because we're partners. So I was walking my dog, and the woods are nice there, and the roads are nice to walk on. And along came a golf cart, and he pulled up, and we said howdy, and there was a little child in there, and my dog's very friendly, no aggression, and he decided he just met his new best friends.
Right.
And I had treats in my pocket. So I gave his son, Travis's son, a couple of treats, and he fed my dog, and
There you
it was
go.
instant love.
So a couple of weeks later, you come over to the property. I was there. Nicola, who was videotaping the show, was there to shoot some videos. So tell me, you walk out of your car, you look at the house, you're human too. You just look and you draw a first impression. What was it?
Well, it needed to be cleaned up a little bit. It wasn't the worst I've ever seen. But you know, when we talk about putting house on the market and this and that, it needed a little curb appeal, and nothing major, but just enough to spark that eye of whoever was pulling in the driveway was like, man, this is my dream home. Look at it. It looks beautiful. You know, so we just needed to take a couple steps and do what we needed to do.
From your vantage point, walking down the driveway, you could see the retaining walls that Rich had built, the bedding. You could instantly see what it could look like without, right?
Yeah, that's a good thing I have, and sometimes it's a bad thing because I visually see it. So then I gotta, you know, kind of adjust to the customer that I'm dealing with and explain to them so they can try to visually see it as well. Or, you know, I used to do like an AutoCAD and do it all on the computer. Then when I would submit the estimate or something, I would give them a CAD look of it and what the bushes would look like and my thought of shaping the beds and this and that, and we'd come to agreement.
Yeah, the conversation that Rich and I and Ken had was that a buyer, when they come to it's a beautiful, beautiful home. I mean, it's just a knockout, stunning home. They needed the ability to see the property. And what's the acreage on the property?
1.16 acres.
Okay. They needed to be able to see the potential for the buyer to come in and author their own vision. But there was too much stuff to look past, and what you're going to do. Well, some of the things you're going to do as a result of that conversation that day. What are some of the things you'll be doing there?
We'll be doing like a fall cleanup. You know, leaves getting the leaves off, mowing the grass, refreshing the driveway, just adding some extra stone. Then kind of cleaning up the lake, the lake. I don't know why I wanted to say pond, but it's a lake, and be able to visually see that, you know, without being elevated from the top floor to being able to walk out the backyard and be able to see the lake.
What kind of equipment will you be bringing into the backyard to do that?
I have a machine. It's called a forestry mulcher. It goes on the front of my skid steer, and it basically will mulch and chew anything in its path less than 8 inches. So it instead of the manpower and trying to get a truck down there and a trailer and cutting things and then dragging it and hauling it away, with this machine it allows me to give it a clean look and kind of keep everything there and mulch it up. Then once it's all said and done, it looks clean if you take it down the ground, but you know, if you keep it eye level, it still gives it a clean look.
You have a ton of equipment.
I do.
I'm almost afraid to ask how much you have invested in equipment, because he is like a car collector. His machinery, I think he Simonizes his equipment before he takes it out.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to ask how much you have, but I'm going to ask.
Yeah, I've got close to about 300,000 in equipment. And then again, you know, we talked earlier about keeping things clean and OCD issues that I have.
Yeah, you do have.
Oh, absolutely. My wife would agree with that as well.
She's right.
So, but you know, I always put myself in the state of mind when I have somebody coming to do work at my house.
Yeah.
The first thing I look at is their car, and I'm not judging them. It's okay if they take care of their car, and they're going to take pride in their work.
Right.
So, you know, it drives me nuts today because it's pouring down rain.
Yeah.
You know, but you'll have that. But when I show up to give an estimate or something like that, I'm serious, and I want the customers to know that I'm serious about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And things are taken care of.
Yeah. He made a good comment about starting the work. He wanted to wait until you did all the pressure washing, you got the house all, shiny and bright and cleaned out before he came in to redo some of the beds, re-gravel, bring all that equipment back in the backyard, probably where most of it's going to be used.
Correct.
So he wanted to help you right away, but he also said, I'd rather wait if you have these 4 or 5 steps you're doing. So we've got step 1 knocked off.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, I think so, pretty much.
And the painters are coming in, and so you now have a clear path to going. And you and I can buy some popcorn. We can sit in the back window and watch. It'll be like a show.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Pretty much.
And I think the way he operates, my guess is that the site that when you leave it, there will be no evidence that you were there, other than the fact that it just looks trim. But there will be you will have a thorough cleanup done as well.
Correct. Yeah. I won't be
Right.
taking equipment in the backyard after a full day of rain or anything like that. And
Right.
that's some things that customers don't understand. Why aren't you here? And then I got to explain to them, well, if I'm there, I'm going to tear up more stuff than I'm actually fixing. So I take that time to kind of educate them, and it all works out, and then they understand. But that goes back to me caring about the customer's property and not just going in there and doing the quickest job I can. Then,
right. Isn't this a great time of the year, though, to do this? If people had issues where they wanted to get their yards clean, trimmed, get ready for spring, isn't this a time of the year to set that up?
absolutely, because we can spend more time when we're not so busy
Right.
in the busy months and weeks during summer, and get it kind of maintained and cut back.
Right.
And then when we show up the beginning of spring,
Right.
it's not, for one, it's not going to cost us much, and two, it's not going to take us so much time to do it.
Right.
But yeah, right now is a great time to do a cleanup. The leaves, it's fall, gutters are getting clogged. The proper maintenance of.
Yeah. I like what you put at the end of your estimate, too. Estimated price may vary based on work performance or changes made. Prices may increase or decrease accordingly. It's impossible to quantify to the penny, isn't it?
It is.
When you put an estimate
It
together.
is.
So you're giving people that.
It goes
Opening.
back to the surprises, as when I have people to my house, I don't like that final bill being sent, and you're asking, well, why is it $1,800 more?
Right.
So, and before
We'll
that,
never ask if it's $1,800 less.
right, exactly. But even, if we're out doing work and something, it's going to need more material or anything like that, I always send a text or call and say, hey, we're over the budget. It's going to be this amount. Would you like to proceed with that?
Yeah.
Without just doing it and then sending an invoice.
When I met Rich, we had a conversation, and I got the distinct impression you were as enamored with your home as you were with the property that it sat on.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And that environment, that outside environment, it was very easy to convince you to want to cultivate it, to put it in its best light.
Well, yeah. I had failed in my mission to do that. And
You're forgiven.
This was so serendipitous that we're selling it ahead of schedule.
Right.
I was supposed to have lifetime living privileges there, and that plan we had to suspend. And that relieved me of whatever sort of shame and guilt I had from not being able to keep up my end of the bargain. So,
Right.
and then, you know how I found you, and you know how I found Travis.
Right.
So, there's a lesson in life I learned a long time ago that to trust somebody truly, you got to become vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you guys inspired that kind of, each of you in your own way
Right.
are easy to trust.
Right.
You have that authenticity right up front.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
so do you. I mean,
Well, thank you.
I can tell you that I know you want to do right by the property. You want to do right by your son. You want to do right by yourself as well.
Yeah. Well, the property's a love affair for me.
Yeah.
I worked hard to convince the seller that I was the person he wanted to sell it to.
Right.
I camped on it off and on for over a year before I even began to design a footprint of a home.
Right.
And I designed the footprint, and I worked with Dave Nichols to draw the house, and he coached me on some of the things and did the engineering drawings. But we
Right.
never got an architecture in there. I just designed it, basically. So
Yeah.
I fell in love with my own design, that's true. But I did it because I wanted it to fit the property.
Yeah.
And I'd lived there spring, summer, fall, winter,
Right.
2 years, basically, before I even started thinking about building a house on it.
There's since you live at Warrior Woods as well,
Mm-hmm.
you're very familiar with all the different homes out there.
Yeah.
But there's nothing. His home was built in 2013. I mean, it is.
Right.
He calls his home Happy Destiny.
Right. Yeah.
And I looked at it and said, "It's a unicorn."
Yeah. My wife actually wants to buy it. She loves it. And I'm like, honey, it ain't happening. We got our own compound.
You can say you have 3 children and you have $300,000 worth of equipment. That's a 4th child.
Right. Oh,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Right there.
For sure.
We're going to come back in the third set. We're speaking with Rich Meinecke, a homeowner over at Warrior Woods, and the owner of All Seasons Lawncare and Excavation, Travis Forrest. This is All Things Moore County.
From every room in the house.
We're back on, and you know what they say when you sell your home, you have to turn it into a house. Your romantic inclinations about your home is that it's a home, it's your home. But when you go to sell it, you have to somehow, you separate yourself a little bit where you highlight all the features
Exactly.
where the next buyer comes in and puts their, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I've surrendered to that totally.
Yes.
You and Travis
Yeah.
facilitated that when you started talking about what you were going to do, and I wasn't part of that conversation. So
Sorry.
It was better that I wasn't.
Back in the first set, Travis, I alluded to something, and we didn't really get into it too much, but I tell people all the time when they come here, there are more hairdressers and more landscapers in Moore County than you can shake a stick at, right? And there are. What differentiates, and how do you differentiate yourself from all the noise? Now, you've been doing this for 2 years, and I know that for you, this is a marathon and not a race. I get that about you, so you're not worried about it. But how do you get the word out about what you do, and why would people want to gravitate towards All Seasons?
I honestly, I don't do much advertising. It's
not
word.
surprised.
It's word of mouth, and it all stems back to a happy customer eating breakfast at a cafe, and my names get brought up, and they're like, "Who?" And they give me a call, and if I get a text or a phone call, I try to respond within an hour, and tell them I'm gonna be there tomorrow, and they're like, "Tomorrow?"
Right.
And then I show up, and it has to be a South thing. I'm trying to adjust to, like we talked before, but
Right.
most customers are surprised that I even showed up. So, and I'll have an estimate within 24 hours.
He did. Before you came in, I was joking with him that he sent an estimate for the work when he walked around with you and Ken the same night.
I heard that.
That's crazy.
I know.
I mean, we thought. Nah,
I know.
We'll see. Whenever it comes, it comes.
That's an imprimatur of this guy. I mean, everything's consistent with that he does.
Right. I see that. So accountability, word of mouth, which is the best way to advertise. And I also said when you were not here, because you've lived here in Southern Pines and Carthage long enough, that 2 years here is a lifetime in terms of if you're trying to build up a business or a network. If you position yourself and do all the right things, within 2 years in this non-urban area, you can become somebody very quickly, which is one of the greatest things about living in Moore County. You picked a great place, and word of mouth travels so fast.
And it's all about how you treat people as well, Right. When, like Rich said, I met him taking my son for a golf cart ride, as we do once or twice a day or twice a week, weather permitting, and I enjoyed every minute talking to Rich. It brought me back to my grandfather back when he was alive, and my dad. And I still say it to this day, old school talk.
Right.
You don't find that much anymore.
Right.
Because people tend to stick to themselves, have a hard time opening up, or
right.
even carrying on a normal conversation.
That's right.
Without having fear.
So there's something very genuine about him, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what you were reacting to, and right.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why, Thanksgiving came around, and
but the same thing is true about you. Very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you guys clicked, and I think it's why we clicked, and why I go on instinct a lot. I just do.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around long enough, right? You have a thought, I trust it.
Right.
And I don't question it anymore. I did when I was much younger. I go with my instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, everything you're talking about, you have exhibited. I know he's going to be working up some things for me, and I didn't get it in 24 hours, but that's okay. It's pre-Christmas. He has a pass on that.
Yeah. But
I'm sure we're going to have a lot of stuff to look at as well. And I think, Rich, you're gonna. It could be a bittersweet situation once he comes in and he does what he's going to do. You're going to see what you fell in love with with a different set of eyes, right?
Yeah, I think there's a bittersweet piece in there.
Sure.
But I've accepted that as part of the overall experience. It's not really.
Right.
It's not chewing on me at all.
Good.
I'm excited to see what Travis's vision is going to be, and basically do what I haven't been able to do.
Right.
So I'm excited to see it. And you don't know this about me, but I have a very Spartan lifestyle. So downsizing and going to a simpler setting isn't going to damage my ego a bit. It'll be very comfortable to move. I won't have to change my lifestyle at all. So I'll just be in a different place, and I'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
When are you going to get started on his property? What are your plans?
I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
As my mind doesn't shut off. I was thinking about doing the driveway next week, just
Mm-hmm.
getting the stone in.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as all the other projects are done, and I'm not going to go in and put down new mulch and when people are going to be pressure washing and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to wait till I'm the last person in to kind of spruce it up.
Yeah.
As I would say.
Yeah. Right now you are you out looking, are you quoting on a lot of jobs for the spring? Are you doing a lot of prep work this winter? Is it a busy time for you?
The land clearing's always busy because, as you know, when you drive around, there's homes going up everywhere. I would say right now it's not as busy. You got Christmas coming around. You got people kind of watching their budget, family coming in, and that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying it's shut off, but this is kind of a slower time and better for me to get paperwork done and spend a little bit more time with customers or a little bit more details on estimates and that kind of stuff. But by all means, we're booming.
Yeah. The soils around here, are they challenging compared to Indiana?
It is. It is because the sand.
So you're looking at things with a different set of eyes as well, aren't you?
Yeah. It's still a learning curve a little bit, with the different grass types and what needs water. We go put new sod down, and I got to explain to customers, it needs sun. So we can't put new sod down or try to get grass to grow when it's in the shade.
What about aeration? You do aeration?
Yep.
How important is that?
I have always been a firm believer in aerating your yard. Just for the simple fact, the whole process of how it works, when you aerate, you're putting holes in the ground. That's when you'll go back in to put the seed down and do the application of that. It may go back to the farming days of the seed actually gets in the ground when there's a hole. So I'm a firm believer in aeration, aerating, I've just always gotten better results.
What's the best time of the year to aerate?
Late fall, if you're going to put in like winter rye to keep your grass green through the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Early spring, before you start doing like a weed and feed or anything like that, that's going to take away the nutrients of the new grass coming up.
Right.
So I always recommend late fall, early spring. That way the grass has time to grow. Then you can start your weed and feed and fertilizer and that kind of stuff. And the new grasses.
But this time of the year right now is not the time.
I wouldn't
too
recommend
hard.
it.
It's getting frozen.
Too hard. Things are dormant right now.
Yeah.
Irrigations are shut off.
Yeah.
Winterized.
Yeah.
So.
And you do irrigation as well.
We do.
You install irrigation?
We do.
Drip systems?
Drip system in the beds, flower beds, irrigation. From, a lot of times doing a job, I'll go to the control panel of the irrigation and it's so outdated.
Yeah.
So we'll do an update of irrigation on the control panel to kind of bring it up to date.
Okay. And you do outdoor lighting?
Yep.
You hook up to the, oh my gosh, you run the wires underground, you hook up to the panel box in the house?
Most of the outdoor lighting.
Outdoor lighting?
Yeah, it'll have its own transformer.
Okay.
I'll just need a place to plug it in.
Okay.
And then kind of set the brains on the transformer to when the customer wants it off and when they want them on, and the dim, the brightness of the lights, and how they want the property to look.
You talked me into considering it
Okay.
when you were
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
At first I was saying, nah. And then I said, nah, you know what?
Yeah.
He obviously knows what he's talking about. Why don't Bill just shut up and listen?
Yeah,
Right?
Well, you got those
Shut
pretty white walls,
Yeah.
So something shining on that
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
entranceway would kind of be like,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm visually seeing it. That we go back to me visually seeing it,
Right.
And then I'm explaining it to the customer.
Right. Rich, we got a couple of busy weeks up in front of us.
We do.
And Travis is going to be, I have a feeling by New Year's or just around the first of the year, we'll be looking at a different scene.
Yes,
At Warrior Woods.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I wish you all the best. People can reach you either your cell phone or your website.
Yep, that's the best.
Cell phone is?
Yeah, website, leave a voicemail, text message, whatever fits.
And it's www.allseasonslawncare.net.
Yep.
And your cell is 765-610-3219. And you're also on Facebook.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're out there. You're going to be very successful here. You're going to love living here.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, no. I see these things.
Good.
I know.
Good.
Don't
Glad
you
to hear
agree,
it.
Rich?
I do.
Huh?
And I do.
Yeah.
And I started a business from scratch
Yes.
in 1994.
Yes.
And by 96, I was incorporated and wide open and actually cloning it in other counties. So, yeah, you can do it if you work at it the right way.
He's got what it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both for coming in and joining us.
Appreciate it.
Thank
you.
you.
Absolutely.
Good to see you.
Yep, appreciate it.
Rich, we'll
Yes.
be talking.
We will.
All right. This is All Things Moore County, everybody. Enjoy your Christmas week.